quick questions about it in here. So his first question is: is these events according to our timeline, or have they deviated?
Well, since it's happening in your timeline, it's in your timeline. So you're here, it's here, and that's really only apparently you needed to attract this reality, otherwise it wouldn't have shown up. So we would say you haven't deviated from anything, because in the word deviation is actually that somehow you did something wrong. You took a wrong turn, and that is in a sense a judgment of self. So in that sense, that energy of judging yourself or judging that you're in the wrong here and now is by definition lowering the frequency. So simply fully embrace where you are here and now and see what you can learn from it, how you can utilize what is being presented in the outside world and see what that does in the inside. What does it trigger on the inside, and how do you respond? What is your ability to respond to something like this? How do you deal with it?
Great. So the second question is the virus made in a lab, and was it released deliberately?
We would say yes. There's definitely a certain setup behind this. We're not necessarily saying it was negative, but there's definitely certain intentions behind what is happening, and you can basically see that by how big it's being picked up by the mainstream media. So the fact that it's being, how we would call it, a bit hyped, should be, in a sense, a clear indication that there is an agenda attached to it. We're not necessarily saying the agenda is negative. On one level, you could say, just as with your climate crisis, you are being presented with fearful scenarios and crises that are of a global nature. So first you get global climate change, and now you have a global disease going around. And this can actually help to let people come together, because now everybody is, in a sense, afraid of the same thing, suffering from the same thing. How real or imagined or promoted it might be, at least it sets all of humanity up against one common external problem.
Yes.
Which we would say is a lot more healthy than setting up one part of the population against another part of the population. So even though people that in a sense have transcended duality already quite a bit might think this is a bit boring or not that interesting.
Who? Sorry?
People that have already transcended the duality, maybe they think it's not that interesting, and that's fair enough, but do understand that for the integration of the population on a global level, these kind of crises can be rather useful if you know how to utilize them in a heartful, constructive way.
That gives real sense, definitely. So the third question, when will the fear stop? What is the outcome? And what type of society will we have?
Yes, those are easy questions, right? What will you do? Now, when the fear will stop really is within you now and within the people around you. It has a lot to do with the fear of death amongst humans. So we would say, if you really want to trigger this fear, look at that. What is death? And why are you afraid of it? Why would you need to be afraid of it?
Yeah.
A lot of humans see death as a very fearful or scary thing, while if you really go into it, you're not afraid of being born. So why would you be afraid of dying? It's just a transition of one state into another. So first of all, if people would look at their belief systems around death and kind of clear that up, then you wouldn't need to panic about it as much as you do now. And then secondly, if you try to approach it from a constructive way, like use it as a simulation in a sense, use it as a computer game. There is a problem, we don't like people to suffer, we would like people not to die if they don't feel like it and if it's not necessarily. So again, we are not necessarily saying that the premise is the right one. It would be better to simply be more neutral about it, but say that is the premise. Then how can you play that computer game the best? How can you solve this problem together on a global level? How can you be of assistance to each other? How can you exchange information from population to population to population? Where can countries start to co-create to resolve these problems? So if you approach it from that viewpoint, and in a sense you could say it's an invitation to global cooperation. And if that is being picked up in a positive way and in a constructive way, a lot of other positive things might flow from it. Now that imagine you kind of find a solution to this crisis, and then maybe you say, you know what, we can do these things. How can we solve the pollution problem on our planet next? And since you've already needed to co-create because of these crises, maybe you can start co-creating on problems you pick instead of the reality kind of showing you when it's almost already too late. It's never really is, but instead of the outer reality reflecting some crises to you, you can on a global level start cooperating and solving issues that concern all of you. There are still people dying of hunger and dying of diseases that are totally preventable. So why not solve those at a global level together?
Definitely. So we have the fourth question.
Yes.
Do you have any advice on how to navigate this in the best way?
Well, apart from what we've said, again, first of all, try to deal with your own fear. So really look, exactly, look at what you are really afraid of and why, and if that makes sense or not. Do you really fear death, or is that simply a belief system that has been imprinted into your society, into your mind, by your religions, by the people around you, by people who did not understand this either? So really learn about what death means to you. There's a great book in Buddhism about the art of living and of dying, which can be very useful. And once you've processed that, then really we would say focus on where you can co-create, find solutions, help each other. Do understand that you're a collective. So from our perspective, it is a bit weird to say, oh, it's important that people within this arbitrary piece of land all have food, but then at the same time people that are in countries with other borders, somehow that's their problem. So if you can let go, and in that sense these kind of global crises invite you to look beyond your borders, to look beyond your own tribe, and if you can start to really solve these issues in an integrated and positive way, understand that these kind of crises also can be used for kind of power-hungry people to say, oh, you need to listen to me now. So it can go both ways, but as long as you're open, if you're not coming from a fearful place, if you're open in your communications, if you're open in your reach towards other people that are dealing with the same issue or that are dealing with issues that you have already solved on a personal or on a group level, then reach out to each other and try to help people find solutions to their problems. And the more you do this, the quicker the whole collective can start to integrate.
Definitely. totally gives so sense. And the last question is, will there be mass arrests during this period?
We can't really go into that at this moment, but we would like to ask you, do you feel that's needed? Again, thinking in us versus them, not saying that there is a group of people that has been just thinking about us as us, but understand that this belief system that somehow I am more important than another being, or these people are the bad ones, in a sense it's disempowering yourself, because even if these people have done, we would say, suboptimal things, if you really start to find your own voices, you really dissolve your own fears, and you start to move forward from an open heart. You communicate openly what you think is important, and you reach out to other people that also are of the same opinion with you. You can, in a sense, start to transcend power structures like banking systems, like governments. Those institutions are not stopping you from speaking your truth, from investing your time and your actions into the fields that you think are necessary, that are important to you. They do not stop you from connecting to people in areas that have problems you might have solutions to, and vice versa, because once you connect to these people, you will always learn from them as well. Even though you feel in the beginning that you should help them, you will always see that you will get something back from this outreach to other parts of yourself. So in that sense, we wouldn't focus too much on the arrests or who's wrong and who's right.
Yeah.
Keep it close to yourself.
Yeah, right, definitely. It's Hawker's question, so I totally agree. I never think about personally, but yep.
Well, thank you for asking these questions for your friend.
Pleasure. I'll just give me some moment. I'll try to think if there's some more questions added from Dag Vignard Fransen regarding this virus. Yeah, well, you have been actually around lots of themes we're thinking about. Maybe how quick can actually the virus get away if we work good in a collective way? How quick can it just fade away as quick as it came?
We would say about half a year, 9 months.
That long time?
Yes.
Wow.
But also do understand that, and again, this might sound a bit weird from some perspectives, but for some people, such a virus is, in a sense, the permission slip to transcend, to start having a different experience. So while a person that is afraid of death might judge that as a negative thing, it's only a negative thing because of that judgment. It's just a transition, just like being born. So in a sense, why would you want to take away a permission slip for people?
Oh, the person slipped to actually leave this body.
Yes, to cross over, to die, because so far, if you look at the results, young people are not affected, and it's mostly just elderly people that are affected by it, which we're not saying we're no judgment upon that, but if you really look at what it actually does, apart from the physical discomfort, it's much more. Sometimes you can say the immune system overreacts on a certain aspect from outside of the body. So actually you get an allergic reaction. It's actually the immune system overreacting. We would say that your collective is in a sense, overreacting quite a bit. And that overreaction might cause actually a lot more problems than the virus itself. Does that answer that question?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I think you've covered most of my, if not the whole, Maybe I can ask you something totally different.
Yes.
I've been reading some of the channelings at a website called Air of Light. There's the Arcturian Council.
Yes.
And what is the difference between the Arcturian Council and you channeling right here now?
There might not be one, there might not really be one, apart from the filter. Like how we being expressed through this channel and that channel might cause a slight distortion, but it might be that the consciousness connected to is very similar.
Like you could be the same?
Yes.
That's what you mean? Mm-hmm.
You could say they're connecting to the same soup of consciousness.
Well, that one I totally know, or it has to be in one way or another.
Yes.
Or it's part of all there is, but is it like, are you kind of the same, or like just out of curiosity? I don't, that's the whole...
Yes, we feel it's very similar in one way at least, yes. And do understand, this might sound weird, but we are cross-connecting not only through humans, but through a lot of other species on your planet as well. So,
like which species, for example?
Well, basically anything we like and any that are open to it. So we can, in a sense, experience ourselves through a physical plant on your planet. Or we can experience ourselves through a specific insect on your planet. So it's very easy for us, in a sense, to connect through your crystallized experience of physical reality. And again, a lot of animals they don't have this separation. Understand that your belief that you're separated from all that is mostly created by your mind. So a lot of other beings are not experiencing that handicap, if you would like to express it.
How come the animals kill each other or to eat and according to the survival? If they feel connected, how come they kill each other?
Well, it's just one big soup of energy, just expression, changing form, changing shape, changing expression. So a piece of grass...
So what you're saying is they still feel connected, even let's say the lion is killing a deer, still they're feeling the connectedness to each other, even though the one of...
Not necessarily to each other, but what it is more is that you have the expression of a blade of grass. Now that gets taken up by, let's say, a gazelle. Now that becomes, in a sense, the expression. It kind of joins that expression of what is it to be the expression of a gazelle running over the prairie. And then maybe suddenly a lion turns up and it catches the gazelle, and then it becomes the expression of the lion, and it becomes the energy of that beingness of the lion. So if you don't judge it as separated things, there really isn't anything wrong with that.
Which part?
Any of it. But this is sometimes a bit difficult to understand. If you just see it as a flow of a kaleidoscope, just whenever you turn it, you get a new expression and a new expression and a new expression and a new expression and a new expression. If you're simply in that flow, and if you don't attach to one part, the only problem is that if you say, oh, I really like this point of the kaleidoscope,
right,
this picture should be how it should always be, but then it turns, and then losing that old picture because it became something new, the attachment, that is what causes the suffering. But if you're not attached, which a lot of animals aren't, or at least not in the same way as humans are, then you're just enjoying the dance. You're just enjoying the dream of beingness. And why would you be the same thing all the time? Isn't it a lot more fun to be able to be a blade of grass, be a lion, be a bird, be a drop of rain?
Right.
Does it make sense?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Well, I don't think I have any more questions I can think about right here now.
Okay.
So maybe I can ask you if you have any messages to me, something you of any kind that will be the highest and best benefit for me in my journey.
Well, we would say congratulations with where you are now. Be proud of yourself. You've earned it. You've worked hard. We hope you're proud of yourself and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
We do see that, but you've been on that line for a long time, we feel, even though you might bump into some new challenges every now and then. We would generally say you're doing great, and in a sense, when we feel that you do that in a sense, but own that. Be proud of yourself in that way.
Thank you.
Yes, then thank you very much for co-creating this space with us. Again, you have our unconditional love, and then we'll connect with you in the next now. Goodbye and namaste.
Mahalo, namaste, mahalo.